This week, we got the board game news coming out of the 2015 Toy Fair from New York City.
And our topic of the week, the West Coast shipping dispute. How is this real-life problem affecting our board games? I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast.
So last week we were busy at the Munchkin World store. We did not have a chance to check out the Toy Fair in New York City, but we are going to talk about some of the stuff that happened there, some of the news. There's a bunch of companies that had previews of upcoming games, one of which was Plaid Hat Games, of course, well known for Mice and Mystics and Summoner Wars.
Oh, let's not forget Dead of Winter.
Oh, let's not. How can I forget it?
How could you?
You can never find it. Well, they had some cool stuff they were showing off, such as the new Spectre Ops stealth sci-fi game, which we talked about in the show, that looks really cool.
We're both very excited for that.
Yeah, I definitely can't wait to play it. Right up our alleys. And speaking of Mice and Mystics, a brand new expansion they're showing off called Tail Feathers, which I don't think we know much about just yet, but you can see at least the box art online. I'm sure it'll be more Mice and Mystics goodness. And they also had the box art and some stuff for the upcoming game Seafall, which is a very exciting one because, of course, it's from the designer of Risk Legacy and is going to be another Legacy-style game, which soon the market will, of course, be flooded with those, I'm sure. So some cool stuff from them. I've heard great people are really excited about Seafall, so...
Yeah, I mean, it sort of combines the idea of the campaign-style games with the style game which you repeat over and over. So it still has the things carrying over.
Right.
But it's not like you're stuck in your character. You can switch up each game.
Feels like a standalone experience.
You sort of have to, depending on whatever the contingency. For example, like with Risk, you may, I don't know, we haven't played yet, but I assume there's a way you might be able to open up a bridge to Australia, which is known for someone turtling in there.
Right.
Which would completely change the strategy of the board.
Yeah. And so now it's cool that this is an original game.
Right.
So they have no baseline to work from. It'll be totally new.
Yeah, which is I think is a great idea, because then you can do a lot more. You can change the way the board so you can add more interesting,
more creativity
mechanics. Yeah.
Possible.
But yeah, Plaid Hat wasn't the only thing there. Of course.
Not by a long shot.
Mysterium, another game we've been talking about, and we actually have played the Polish version, which we actually own. It released the artwork for the English version, the box, which looks amazing, as well as Dixit Memories. Now, this is a Dixit expansion, but it's actually designed that it can mix with Mysterium. Technically, we were talking all Dixit can mix with it, which now that we were talking about earlier, I'm like, now I want to mix Dixit with the Mysterium, because it really is perfect for...
Yeah, the cards are the same size. If you're not familiar with Mysterium, they're both... picture guessing clue games. And yeah, I mean, obviously Dixit continues to be popular. They're pumping out more and more expansions, and if going forward, they're all branded as Mysterium expansions too.
Right. Well, I think one of the reasons that they're able to pump out the expansions, it's not like, okay, we need a new mechanic. It's literally, let's get some more artwork.
Because more variety is always a good thing.
Yeah. Oh no question. And you don't feel guilty, though, like with Cosmic Encounter, where we're like, okay, we played 3 aliens so far.
Right. Just mix them all in. It's a little simple.
So, I mean, that looks awesome. If you haven't checked it out yet, look at Mysterium. It's definitely one of the games we suggest grabbing as soon as it comes in English. Or, if you really can't wait, grab it in Polish.
Yeah, it should be out by the end of the year.
Yes.
Speaking of games that keep pumping things out, though, there are not one, but 2 new versions of Love Letter announced at the show from AEG. They are going to be following up the soon-to-be-released Batman and Hobbit Love Letters with Adventure Time and Archer.
Another 2 very popular, especially both of us love
properties that already have their own games as well separately. Mm-hmm. So these are essentially going to be just Love Letter again. However, there are some interesting things. I at least saw with the Archer version, there's a card that actually, normally at the beginning of each Love Letter game, one card is set aside secretly. In this one, that card might come back into the mix and could be reshuffled back to somebody. So it's nice that they're switching things up a little bit, although I'm really starting to worry about how many different versions of Love Letter, Freudian slip, we're gonna start seeing, and how quickly I'm gonna get tired of it. But hey, for somebody who's never played, who likes Archer or Adventure Time,
well, yeah, like we said when we were with Munchkin. I believe we said it with the Munchkin episode.
Probably a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, recently, because it came up when we were at the Munchkin, is that some people will not play Love Letter because it has like Love Letter and Princess in the title. But then Loot Letter comes along and, oh, that's the greatest game ever. It's like, the game you chose to avoid is the game you're playing.
Right. So it's still, I guess it's still a good thing because at least it'll give those people a chance to get into it.
And I mean, it's Archer. And Adventure Time,
It's both.
Yeah.
Because why not?
But continuing from there, a while back we talked about how Catan is changing all their games to say just Catan, which is, we think, a good part because it's a little confusing when you have the Settlers of Catan, and mixture.
Yeah.
And we got to see the new boxes for that.
Yeah, the new art and or the English versions,
right.
we should say too, which they're supposed to come out in April, which is pretty soon. So it might not be too long that you don't get to see those old Catan boxes anymore. You should stock up now. It could be collector's items. And the insides of the box we got to see. We're getting it all over here.
Yeah, but that was really all the board game news stuff. I mean, there's plenty of toy stuff, which I know I found interesting, but we'll talk later in some not this video.
I'm sure there's more board game stuff too, but that was some of the big stuff at least. But if you check it out online, there's lots that we wouldn't have time to get to.
Some stuff that wasn't even apparently people were allowed to talk about.
Oh, mysterious.
Yeah, I heard from DC.
We should pretend that we know that we can't talk
We
about.
totally know.
But coming off of Catan, there was some interesting non-Toy Fair news related to that. We just found out this week that there may or may not be a Settlers of Catan film in the works, or possibly a television show.
Can we just point out how you phrase that? There may or may not be, pretty much. There is some possible future where there may or may not be a Catan.
It's very vague and early on right now. What we know is that the rights to it were purchased by a certain producer, so that the potential is there. They want to make a film. However, because it's so early, there's no script, there's no nothing. So I hesitate. It's not exactly a done deal.
Yeah, I think one of the things when I first saw it, I'm like, how did they make a game? And then I realized it's because I'm so focused in what Catan is. I don't think the movie will be what Catan. It's not going to be just, I am here to trade sheep.
Well, to be fair, the quote from the person was like, I've always wanted to bring the lore of Catan to the big screen. So
it's going to be interesting because...
What lore?
Yeah.
The farmers. End of lore.
I mean, I feel like it's just going to be D&D but Catan, sort of.
Wait, what does that mean?
Like, sort of just... It's going to be like, we're going to find out there's dragons in Catan or something, mystic fighting. Like,
I would love that to be true. Why don't they make D&D themed Catan? That'd be awesome.
I'm surprised, actually. I'm thinking about it.
Instead of the robber, it's a dragon.
Actually, I would love that.
Anyway, so that's yet another board game movie that we have to look forward to.
Yeah, so we'll see how that turns out.
We will see.
But I think that's enough news for now. I think it's time for our Kickstarter Pickstarter. So, for my Kickstarter Pickstarter, I chose the game Entropy. In this game, the worlds I should say, have shattered. And you play a person from each world, or each player. And your goal is to try to gather up the remaining shards of your world and bring it into existence again before anyone else can bring theirs.
Are you aliens?
Well, I guess you're all human artwork, but I guess technically, yes, you're aliens. I mean, if you think of this, the definition of what alien means.
Right.
But it's this amazing idea with this beautiful artwork where you have to collect actually your landscape pieces. Like, it actually makes a full diorama for piece of what your world looked like. Huh. And there's all these cards that have numbers of different actions. And the higher number action means you get to go first. But if someone plays the same action as you, they cancel each other out. So it's this interesting, do I want to play a higher action to do this thing early? Or someone else might stop it and I might lose a turn.
It's one of those games where you're constantly terrified deciding which card to play because it could go badly for you.
Right. And I think it's an interesting idea. I love the design. It's way over. It's made it past its regular, hit up so many stretch goals. I think they're on a 5th player now. So that means a whole new world and stuff. Yeah. The game itself is only $19, which is really nice. I should forgot to mention this game also by Alan Cheng. I believe I'm saying that right.
I believe you are.
We like to believe things.
we believe.
But no, I thought it looked like a pretty simple but still really fun concept with amazing, beautiful artwork. I mean, collecting dioramas reminds you a lot of Tokaido because you can get the pieces of art to make that big piece of art. And I like doing that in that game just because I feel I just want to have the full art piece because it's so beautiful. And then these lands are just amazing. So it's a great game for a great price. So check it out.
That sounds good to me. My pick this week is called Shadow Star Corsairs. It is developed by Ryan Wolf, and it is a space-themed sci-fi game wherein you will have control of a ship, but you also have your own little crew. So there's there's interactions both in space and on land, and you're essentially trying to gain the best reputation, dominance, etc. of your galaxy. There's combat. There's resource gathering, you build items and weapons, and there's also political, diplomatic sort of points that you can achieve as well. And the board, it's a modular board, which we've been talking about a lot lately that we like. So you can go randomly or not. Your space map can be however it's set up that you want. And it seems like it's a fairly straightforward game in the vein of things like Firefly or Eclipse.
Yeah, that's definitely the games that made me think of.
The creator compared it to Merchants and Marauders as well.
I definitely thought Firefly also because I will mention in the video he does wear a blue sun shirt.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. So that kind of, if you're into sci-fi, there's probably going to be something for you.
It also has some really nice miniatures.
Yes, that's important to mention because
the price
of the game, it's $59, which isn't too bad.
Yeah, especially when you include miniatures in there, it makes sense.
Yeah, right. For this cool little spaceship miniatures that, of course, you could paint if you are good at doing that.
We are not.
But yeah, it seems like a cool space-themed game that we like. I haven't played any of the guy's other games, but he has done other successful Kickstarters in the past. So
yeah, and I'm definitely curious to see because I know we like Firefly a lot, but a lot of that interaction there really isn't the planned interaction besides the one like either you're gonna make a deal, do the trouble.
Wait, are you talking about with each other?
Yeah. No, like when you draw from the trouble deck. What's that called again?
Oh, aiming to misbehave.
And like that's it. But this feels like it's gonna be much more interaction.
There's a lot more. At the end of every turn, you're allowed to attack someone near you, and even if your ship dies, you could lose reputation, but you'll get a new ship. So there's no player elimination. But yeah, the combat stuff sounds really fun.
Right. Definitely, I think it's something to look at. We both love, even outside of board games, just the idea of space exploration.
Yeah.
So
in real life,
definitely something to look forward to.
Those are our Kickstarter picks, and we're gonna finish our show up with the topic of the week.
Now, this week, our topic of the week is a little bit different than usual.
It's a real world issue.
Yeah. It's actually about the West Coast shipping dispute. And you might be going, what is that? What does that have to do with board games? Well, let's give you a little background of what's happening. Back in May 2014, the contracts between the longshoremen, the people who work on all the shipping centers on the West Coast, and the companies there, pretty much they discuss to renew their contract. Every 6 years they renew it. Every now and then, of course, there's a little arguing, but not too much. Everything usually gets resolved within a month or so. Apparently this time has not been as clear-cut as both sides would like. And the dispute has still been going on till this current time. The two groups, the International Longshore Warehouse Union, are discussing with the Pacific Maritime Association. And what's happening is neither of them can agree on common ground. And what's happening there is there's a slowdown tactic, but both of them are accusing each other of the slowdown tactic. The union is saying the association's not hiring enough workers to get the jobs done, while the Pacific Maritime Association is accusing the longshoremen of not sending enough workers to forcibly cause a slowdown. What this causes is everything that goes through these ports is slowed down. Things that would be taken care of maybe in a day or two take at least 2 weeks.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah, there are ships just waiting in ports. And what this means for you is everything that's made in China, pretty much all board games,
and pretty much everything ever,
yes, are stuck in port.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of, and this is even worse because there's also ships trying to leave the ports to go to China to like deliver food and stuff. But in terms of for us, another big issue is they'll try to be like, okay, let's try to go to Canada or try to go to the East Coast. Problem is with Canada, they've not built. They don't have like the trains, the space to expect all this new incoming people. I mean, just imagine if you got Ticket to Ride, but now there's only like 1 or 2 ways to get across country.
I love it.
I know you love it. But in East Coast, they already have their own things to deal with.
They can't be expected to take on a whole other coast
Right.
issues.
Not only that, it means longer trips. So like what would take, I don't know how long it takes to cross the sea, you have to almost double it because you have to go then through the Panama Canal, and that's also more fees then. And what is happening is pretty much anything, like we said, going takes forever to get, which is hitting everyone. The board games are just one. I mean,
well, of course, we are a board game podcast.
yes, we are.
So we are going to talk about actually how that's affecting the board game world, which is a big part of it. And a lot of games are seeing delays. Especially it's hitting also Kickstarter developers.
Oh yeah,
as they're things that are being assembled overseas. And Kickstarter, they all have enough delays to deal with already.
Right. I know one Kickstarter. He sent a mail is like, yeah, your game was actually in port December.
Yeah.
And like just unloaded.
Yeah, that's rough. And Fantasy Flight, actually one of the biggest companies there is. They were really good. They just recently put out a press release basically announcing exactly what is being affected, and it's a lot of big stuff. This new Star Wars Armada game, huge release.
Ooh, yeah.
Now is being pushed back like at least a couple months.
Oh god.
And
X-wing stuff.
A lot of X-wing stuff,
which is bad because correct me if I'm wrong, they're planning to reprint a lot of from the first wave.
A lot of old X-wing stuff,
which I know from at least people from telling us that's when they've been dying for us to carry.
Right.
We're like, we wish we could.
Yeah, we really wish we could now. And reprint stuff again, like the base of Descent, which we want, which is sold out.
Cosmic Encounter.
Cosmic Encounter. Like basically, a lot of Fantasy Flight stuff, and they're not the only ones, but that's one of the biggest people the biggest examples of it.
And you may be wondering, why don't they just fly it over? We have planes now. You can. It's much more expensive. Much more. And the planes can't hold nearly as much as a ship can.
Right, yeah.
So that even if they do that, we're still not getting nearly as much. So let's say, for example, let's say if something was regular, we could get Descent or Cosmic Encounter in relatively recent bundles when we sell out. These are now very limited items. Like we may be able to get like 3 at a time if we're lucky.
Yeah, it's tough on consumers and retailers because we want to be able to sell the stuff and we can't get our hands on it. And game distributors, like everyone in the industry is affected by it, and it's a
not just it's hitting the entire economy. Like I said, produce, board games, video games to have it. I mean, you name it, it's gonna be affected by this.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's come to a point when a president has stepped in. He has sent over the Labor Secretary Thomas Perez to try and negotiate with the two of them. As of right now, if last I checked, which is we're recording Friday, nothing has happened. So he has given a ultimatum to say solve your problem by this coming Friday, or we're going to take each leader to Washington. My guess is saying, you look at all the people you got angry. I mean, I don't know if that will affect the situation.
Sounds like that's something might actually happen.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty. You got to get it done. So hopefully this is the last week that this discussion will be relevant.
Right. But I think it's really interesting to see because, I don't know if you're seeing it yourselves when you're trying to buy these games, but for us when we're trying to get them to sell, this is the first time I'm really seeing how much the shipping over one ocean is so important.
And it seems like, even though this has been going on for a while now, it seems like just recently it's gotten worse and worse.
What actually happened is they were slowly looking like they're doing well in negotiation. They're getting really close. And sometime around President's Weekend, pretty much everything fell apart.
Yeah.
And just, everything that. Just imagine like they were playing Jenga and everything was looking good. Boop! The whole thing fell over.
I need everything explained to me as a board game.
I can't resist. It's too much fun. But you know what's good about this though? A few years from now, someone's going to make a board game when each side is playing as each group, and you have to try to negotiate.
That sounds fun, yeah.
Until you realize you're not getting games because of it.
No, it would be really great is if someone made that game and it was being held up because of the shipping dispute. Let's get on this quickly. And also, am I wrong? Because I know Chinese New Year is a big deal because that affects the manufacturing of games. Is that kind of compounding the impact of this?
It is, but I think it's more of
people are usually prepared for that.
Yeah, well, the Chinese New Year pretty much it's really big there. I mean, for us, you know, they go figure.
But
they
like it in China.
Work stops. I mean, like you go home to your family. Like it's like Christmas for us. Like the way how you're just gone. Everything.
Right.
But a lot of that is more because. You know, that's when they're gonna buy like food, maybe specialty food like fruits, you know, pork, and when we usually try to send that to them, you know, we send to them. But the problem is those containers with food, which unlike board games rot, are being held up in ports.
So it's bad on both ends.
Yeah,
definitely.
I mean, it's really hopefully it is solved like we said before. Our next
so this is our way of apology for if we don't have some things in stock. Now you know why. It's not our fault. We're trying.
But like I said, it is interesting. You should read more on it, especially if you're thinking about making a game about it, because I do think it actually would make a very good game theme.
Are you kidding me? Shipping goods? That's the heart and soul of all board games.
Disputes, like arguing with each other, making deals,
trade negotiations.
Yeah, I think it would work very well.
Well, if you've got that idea for a game, or maybe you have the solution to this crisis or something like that, give us your thoughts and feedback. Or if you have a different question you'd like us to answer or discuss on the show, we'd love to hear it. You can leave a comment below, or you can send us an email. Our email address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
And of course, you can visit our site, where you can have more of these videos, our podcasts, and playbacks, as well as buy some of the games that we might have in stock.
Absolutely. We just did a playback on the game 12 Realms last week, so you can find that there. That, of course, is rollforcrit.com.
Of course.
And if you want to keep up, make sure you follow us on the links around us for Twitter, Facebook, subscribe on YouTube.
We would love to subscribe. Don't slow it down. Just keep on clicking.
Keep that train rolling, people. But other than that, we got nothing else to say in this week's episode. It's been fun.
All right. Sounds good. I'm Will Keeler.
I'm Jonathan Estes, and this has been the Roll for Crit podcast.
Boom!